And this is the problem with the mass vaccination thing. If you're going to Walgreens, do you think they ask you if you've had COVID recently before they gave you a shot? And so really the best medical recommendation for a young person is, one, you don't need the COVID vaccine, but you certainly shouldn't be taking it close to when you've had an infection, because you've got an immune response that's going against the disease. Then you add in another stimulant to it that's actually related to an increase in the rate of the heart inflammation that comes along with vaccinating some of the young people.
Well, there's also the weirdness of what happened during the Reagan administration with vaccines, where they're no longer liable for any vaccine injuries. And when you call this a vaccine, it's very different than any vaccine that had ever been used before, but yet you have all of these injuries that people have no recourse.
Yeah, my dad was in Congress at the time and voted against, giving them the liability protection. And he also was there when they had the swine flu epidemic. And in that, more people died from the swine flu vaccine. And I think there were no deaths from swine flu. They said, oh, it's going to take over the world and, we're going to lose, 5% of our public. Nobody died. The epidemic quickly stopped, but then several people got Guillain-Barré and a few people died from the vaccine. And I'm not against vaccines. Look, there are many miracles to vaccines, but they should be used judiciously and the risks and benefit for each individual. And it turns out COVID had an age differential that was more significant probably than any disease we've ever seen. It really was an old person's disease.
Yeah. An old person and people with comorbidities.
Exactly.
It was really bad for obese people. But, the disease aside, what was it like for you to watch this play being run? Because that's essentially what it was. It was like there was a play being run, and you had to follow whatever their narrative was to the T, or you'd be attacked. And you would see these people that were acting like soldiers for the pharmaceutical drug complex. I mean, they would go out there and just brutally attack anybody who deviated from the narrative, say the most awful things, talk about how there's blood on your hands, and it was very strange.
Well, the belief in the vaccines and the belief that you should do it was like a religious belief, and that's the way they treated it. So if you didn't believe in it, you were someone to be demonized as a non-believer. You were to be cast out, and you weren't patriotic if you weren't wearing a mask. And even after I've already had it, I'm walking down the hallway, between the office buildings and the Capitol, and all those reporters, they're 22 years old. Most of them are journalist majors. They never had a science course in their life, and they're lecturing me about why I should be wearing a mask. And it's like, I already had the disease. I've healed up 3 weeks. I don't need to wear a mask. I've got immunity. Well, how do you know that? But even in the beginning, when they said they didn't know, they did know. We had a outbreak in 2003. It was a different coronavirus. It was the first SARS virus, but we knew that those people 17 years later still had T cells and still had immunity to it. One of my favorite stories, and we include this in the book, was there was a woman, and she was 102. She goes to the hospital, and they bring her family in. They're talking to her daughter, who's 85, says, we don't think your mom's going to make it. And she said, have you met my mom? And they said, well, and she survived. But while she was there, they decided to test her for antibodies to the Spanish flu, because when she was 6 months old, her mother was coming across the Atlantic. Her mom died from the Spanish flu. She got it, survived. They tested her 100 years later. She still had antibodies to the Spanish flu. So immunity lasts a long damn time.
Wow. That's crazy. But what was it like being in the government and seeing all this play out, and that it was illogical, it didn't make any sense, but yet everyone was following the playbook?
Well, people without any kind of scientific background were lecturing people. Sherrod Brown from Ohio was a senator. He was the worst. He would stop the proceedings and start pointing and yelling at me for not having a mask. In the House, they made him wear the mask, and so you got everybody in there with a mask. I got the infection like in March of 2020, so I got it just as it came over. I'm all healed up. I volunteered in the hospital when I was done